The drive to my childhood home had been a tense negotiation, with the ghosts of holidays past. Lila's hand rested on my knee as the suburbs blurred into view, her thumb tracing lazy circles that were meant to soothe, but only amplified the knot in my stomach. "It's just dinner, Raya," she'd said earlier, her voice a warm anchor in the cool leather of the rental car. "Your mom's excited. That's what matters." But I knew better. Mom's birthday dinners were sacred rituals. Layers of silk saris, platters of biryani steaming under the chandelier, and Dad's booming toasts that masked the fractures beneath. At 28, I'd learned to navigate those fractures like landmines, especially after coming out 2 years ago. Lila was my world now, all dark curls and quiet fire. But to my family, she was the uninvited variable. We pulled into the driveway just as the sun dipped low, painting the 2-story colonial in hues of amber and regret. The house hadn't changed. The rose bushes Mom tended like old friends. The brass knocker, shaped like a lion's head that Dad had installed after his promotion at the import-export firm. Inside, the air was thick with cumin and cardamom, laughter spilling from the dining room like an overflow of affection. I squeezed Lila's hand one last time before we stepped through the door. "Ready?" she whispered. I nodded, faking the smile I'd practiced in the mirror. The table was a battlefield of finery, crisp white linens, crystal glasses catching the light from the heirloom chandelier that had hung there since my grandparents' wedding. Mom was at the head, a vision in emerald green, her laughter lines deepening as she hugged me tight. "My Raya," and Lila, "Beta, you look stunning." Her embrace lingered on Lila, a silent apology for the world's cruelties. Aunts and uncles dotted the seats. Aunt Fatima with her endless stories of Lahore bazaars, Uncle Kareem nursing a soda and avoiding politics, cousins scrolling phones under the table, and Dad, Amir Khan, the unyielding patriarch, presided from his throne at the opposite end, his broad frame filling the chair like it owed him rent. His eyes, sharp as the cleaver in the kitchen, flicked over us both, lingering on Lila's hand in mine with something that wasn't quite warmth. Dinner unfolded in fits and starts. The kebabs arrived first, charred and fragrant, passed around with tales of Mom's latest gardening triumphs. "These roses, they're fighters just like her," Uncle Kareem joked, earning chuckles. Lila chimed in with a story from her graphic design gig, a client, who demanded a logo with exploding pineapples, and the table thawed, if only for a moment. I watched Dad's jaw tighten, his fork stabbing at his plate like it had personally offended him. He'd been civil in the greetings, a stiff welcome that tasted like obligation, but I could feel the undercurrent, the way his gaze kept drifting to the empty seat beside. Mom, the one that used to be mine, back when I was the good daughter, with a desk job and a vague engagement to some engineer's son. The main course hit like a wave, biryani layered with saffron rice and tender lamb, Raya cooling the spice and fresh naan torn by eager hands. Toasts followed, Mom's to family, the glue that holds us through storms, and the wine, non-alcoholic for the traditionalists, flowed. Lila leaned into me, her shoulder a quiet rebellion against the room's scrutiny. I was midway through a bite, savoring the burst of cardamom, when Dad cleared his throat. The sound was deliberate, a gavel's crack in a courtroom of complacency. He set down his glass with a deliberate clink, the ruby liquid sloshing like blood in a vial. "Beautiful spread as always, Sarah," he said to Mom, his voice honeyed for her benefit. Then, without warning, his eyes locked on Lila. "But let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? This guest doesn't belong anymore." The words landed like a grenade, splintering the air. Forks froze. Aunt Fatima's hand flew to her mouth, pearls clicking like worried teeth. Uncle Kareem coughed into his napkin. Mom's face crumpled, her fork slipping from her fingers to clatter against porcelain. The chandelier seemed to dim, shadows stretching long across the tablecloth like accusing fingers. Lila went rigid beside me, her warmth turning to ice. But she didn't flinch. God, she never did. Her chin lifted, those hazel eyes steady, even as color drained from her cheeks. "Dad," I breathed, my heart a wild drum in my chest. The room spun, faces blurring into a gallery of judgment. "What the actual hell are you talking about?" He leaned back, arms folding across his chest like armored plates, his salt and pepper beard twitching with satisfaction. "You know exactly what, Raya. This arrangement." The word dripped venom, aimed at Lila like a dart. We've played along for your mother's sake, smiled through the whispers at masjid, the sideways looks from neighbors. But tonight? Her birthday? A celebration of our life, our values? No. She doesn't belong here. Not anymore. Pack your things and go, both of you, if you must. But this ends now. The silence that followed was suffocating. Thick as the fog rolling in from the bay window, I could hear the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, each second a hammer blow. Mom reached for Dad's arm, her voice a fractured plea. Amir, please. Not like this. It's her night. But he shrugged her off, his gaze never leaving mine, challenging, unyielding. I'm done pretending, Sarah. Our daughter was raised better. This city's poisoned her. Lila's fingers slipped from mine, cold and trembling. She pushed back her chair, the scrape echoing like a farewell. She started, voice barely above a whisper. But I grabbed her wrist, my grip fierce. No, not without a fight. The old Raya, the one who'd shrunk in corners, swallowed apologies like bitter pills, dissolved in that instant. In her place rose something sharper, forged in the quiet months since I'd first suspected Dad's secrets. I'd come prepared, not with fists or fury alone, but with ammunition. Last month, during a coerced family cleanup weekend, I'd borrowed Dad's old laptop, under the guise of fixing it for Mom. What I'd found wasn't just dust and deleted files. It was a vault of his unraveling, offshore accounts in the Caymans, funneled through shell companies tied to his Dubai trips. Emails laced with desperation to a bookie named Victor, tallying losses from high-stakes poker, dens that made our mortgage look like pocket change. 200,000 gone in 2 years, siphoned from the family savings Mom thought was for our future. College funds, a down payment on a house for me, and the kicker? Forged signatures, including one on Mom's name, to cover the last desperate loan. I'd copied it all to a USB drive, small as a thumbnail, now burning a hole in my purse beside Mom's birthday gift. A silver locket engraved with forever ours, holding a faded photo of us 3 at the beach, waves lapping at our ankles like innocent promises. I hadn't wanted to use it, prayed even in the quiet of my apartment, that Dad's gruff silences would thaw into acceptance. But as Lila stood there, emerald dress pooling like spilled courage, I crossed the Rubicon. Sit down, Lila, I said, my voice low but laced with steel, guiding her back to the chair. She hesitated, eyes searching mine. Are you sure? And I nodded, a vow. Then to the room. You want to talk belonging? Fine. But if we're airing laundry, let's wash it all. I fished out the drive, holding it aloft like Excalibur, the plastic glinting under the chandelier. Gasps rippled, Aunt Fatima invoking Allah's mercy, Uncle Karim's eyes widening behind his glasses. Mom's hand pressed to her chest, a silent Raya. What have you done? Dad's facade cracked, just a hair, his brow furrowing, lips thinning. What's that supposed to be? Some childish threat? This, I said, voice steady as I crossed to the sideboard, and Mom's clunky laptop, the one cluttered with recipe, PDFs and family albums, is the truth you've buried deeper than your conscience. I plugged it in, the machine whirring to life like a reluctant confessor. The screen bloomed with spreadsheets, columns of dates bleeding red ink, wire transfers to untraceable accounts, chat logs with phrases like double or nothing. Amir, one more hand. A photo attachment. Dad in a smoke-hazed casino, arm around a stranger, stacks of chips like fool's gold. Dubai wasn't business trips, Dad. It was escape. And the money? Mom's jewelry lost in transit? The savings that vanished? This is where it went, all of it. The table leaned in, a collective inhale. Aunt Fatima whispered a dua, her fan fluttering like a trapped bird. Uncle Karim muttered, Ya Allah, his soda forgotten. Mom rose slowly, her chair tipping with a soft thud that echoed like Judgment Day. She glided to the laptop, eyes scanning the damning ledger, the color leaching from her face. When she turned to Dad, it wasn't with tears, it was with the quiet fury of a woman who'd bandaged wounds for decades. Amir, is this all of it? He shifted, the fortress of his posture crumbling at the edges. Sweat beaded on his forehead, catching the light like deceitful diamonds. Sarah, it was temporary. Bad luck. For us, for the family. I was going to fix it. For you, she corrected, her voice a blade honed by betrayal. The room held its breath as she faced the assembly, her emerald sari shimmering like armor. Raya, Lila, stay seated. We're finishing this meal. Amir, if you want any part of this dessert, this family, you look that woman in the eye and say you're sorry. Mean it, or leave, now. The clock ticked. 5 seconds, 10, 20. Dad's gaze darted, to the drive, to me, to the door he'd once slammed on my truths. His fists clenched the tablecloth, knuckles whitening, then released. The air thickened, every breath a wager. Finally, a rasp. I'm sorry, Lila. I was wrong. Stay, please, for Sarah. It hung there, fragile as spun sugar. Not redemption. A start, maybe. Lila's hand found mine again, tentative, then firm. Her thumb resuming those soothing circles. A small smile ghosted her lips, fierce and forgiving. The table exhaled, murmurs rising like steam from cooling plates. Aunt Fatima passed the raita with renewed vigor. Uncle Kareem cracked a joke about life's unexpected spices, and Mom nodded once, sharp and final, before reclaiming her seat. But the night wasn't mended. As dessert arrived, chocolate torte layered with pistachios, candles guttering in a breeze from the open window, tension simmered beneath the surface. Dad picked at his slice, eyes downcast, avoiding the victory in mine. Mom's laughter returned, forced at first, then genuine as stories flowed. Remembrances of my first steps, Lila's tales of our weekend hikes. Yet I felt the weight of the drive, still humming with power. Would I delete it tonight, let forgiveness take root? Or slip it into an envelope for his bosses, the ones who'd praised his integrity at last year's gala? And Mom, what would she do with her half of the ruins? Demand the accounts frozen, or turn them into seeds for something new. A fund for Lila and me. A safety net woven from his mistakes. Coffee followed, bitter and black, poured in the living room where old photo albums lay open like confessions. Dad lingered on the edges, offering stilted small talk to Lila about her art. Impressive. Really? His voice a gravel path to atonement. She answered gracefully, but her eyes met mine across the room. What now? As we gathered coats, hugs exchanged with promises of next time. No drama. Mom pulled me aside in the hallway. Her locket gleamed at her throat, the one I'd given her, photo tucked safe. You did what you had to, Beta, she whispered, pressing the drive into my palm. No, wait. She'd slipped it from the laptop earlier, a mother's sleight of hand. But mercy's a choice, too. Think on it. The drive home blurred under streetlights, Lila's head on my shoulder, her breathing soft against the hum of tires on asphalt. Dad's apology echoed, a half-built bridge over the chasm. Revenge had tasted like victory, sharp and sweet, but now? It lingered like aftertaste, promising more. Confrontations in boardrooms. Quiet reckonings over tea. Would I pull the trigger at dawn, or let the shadows fade? As the city skyline rose to greet us, one truth burned clear. The feast had changed us all. And the next course? That was mine to serve.